Hey everybody, it's me, Julie. Today's video is going to be about how I just signed with a second agent for my nonfiction project, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that process and how I approached it and give you some insight into how the nonfiction process was different from my getting representation for my fiction project. So I started writing this nonfiction book back in April 2012. It's about asexuality and the asexual community. And, I'm a member of the asexual community, and I've done all kinds of visibility work over the years. I've been writing on the topic pretty much forever. And so then I noticed, hey, there are no mainstream books published about this topic, so maybe I'm just the person to write it. So I spent about a month on the first draft. Now, I should clarify that with nonfiction, you don't have to have a complete project in order to query or approach publishers, but you do have to write a book proposal, and that book proposal is actually what publishers end up buying based on. So I did my homework, and I figured out, how to write a good proposal, and then I set up my query to try to get an agent, and the query mostly covers what the project is about, why the book is important and why it needs to exist, and why I'm the person who would be the right author to write it. Okay, so obviously, if you're going to be querying a nonfiction project, you do have to be prepared for the agent to ask you for the proposal. Sometimes they even ask you to include the proposal with your query, so you do have to have one written. And as mentioned before, I did do some homework, but I didn't really have a whole lot of understanding about how to write a book proposal. So, I'm not an expert or anything, but I want to take you through what my proposal looked like so that you can kind of understand what was enough to get me signed to an agent.
So in my proposal, I started with basically an elevator pitch, a couple of sentences about what the book is and why it's important, like a little tagline. Next, I did like an overview. It was a couple pages long. It explains the project and why it's needed and kind of briefly what the book will cover. And I also mentioned the format, like what type of book it will be. Like in my case, it was a trade paperback. I discussed the word count and the approximate number of pages that I anticipate it will be, and you might want to say whether you conceive it as requiring color, any color photographs, because that will make it more expensive, or whether you conceive it in black and white and grayscale. The next thing that I covered was the intended audience and the demand and the competition. Theoretically, with most nonfiction books, there's already going to be books that cover your subject, and you're going to want to go into why your book still needs to be written and what hole it fills. You will want to say who's going to read it and what makes you think it's going to be purchased, and you want to include a detailed list of where and how you can have the book promoted with like reasonable explanations for why you think you can get those organizations and venues to sell the book. Next, I did an author profile, and for the record, in nonfiction, who the author is really, really important. It's not like in fiction where your work speaks for itself. They want someone who basically has a platform, and they don't really care if you're just good at writing about it. They need to know that you're a somebody in the field. So in my case, I did an author profile explaining, how I got into the topic of my book and where I've been interviewed in mainstream print and in video media, audio media, where I've done public speaking on the subject, and what prominent publications or personalities have referred to me or quoted me as an authority. So, and then finally, I included a sample table of contents, which was followed by like an expanded version of that, where I listed all of those table of contents items and explained what each item would lead to in a little capsule understanding of what that chapter was. So it basically just described the structure of the book and gave more detail on what it would cover. The whole thing was under 20 pages, not including the sample chapter I included and a sample illustration. And I have seen in book proposal writing instructions that a lot of people prefer that the proposal be meatier than that, but that was all I had, and it seems to have worked for me. So you'll want to modify and tailor these instructions to whatever your project is if you're looking to write a nonfiction book proposal, and also, of course, look up other people's advice on how to do it.
So in May of 2012, I started querying, and by mid-June or so, I had gotten 2 positive responses. One was from a publisher, but the publisher ended up asking for my proposal and then just kind of disappearing and never following up. And then the agent, he was interested in my proposal, but then he was kind of not very responsive, and some of the things that he said in our correspondence made me think we really weren't a very good match on the project. So when he didn't follow up, I wasn't too broken up about that because I didn't think that he'd be the right person for the job. So in August 2012, I got kind of distracted because I had gotten signed for my fiction project, and there was all kinds of excitement over that, going on submission and whatnot. And then I also kind of pulled back and concentrated on the book draft for the nonfiction project. I was fine-tuning the manuscript. I went and did some public speaking on the topic at a conference, and then later incorporated that into my proposal. And then I also started soliciting a test audience to look at the material. I'm pretty well connected in the asexuality community, so I made one post on Tumblr, and more than 60 people volunteered to read the book and help me out. And some of them gave me really good advice and really nice insights that I ended up being able to use. So my acknowledgments section is going to be pretty big. But in any case, by the time I got back from the conference and started looking at the feedback that I got from the test audience, I decided I was ready to query again by February 2013. So then the last round of queries I ended up having to do was the one I sent out in March. That was when I found the Harvey Klinger Agency, and I was led to read the profile of Andrea Somberg. So right away, I thought that Andrea was a really good match for my material. She had a great track record in selling nonfiction books. She even teaches authors how to market and create proposals for nonfiction books. She teaches a workshop at conferences, and she's very active in the conference circuit. She just seemed like she was really hands-on and involved. And it turned out that when I queried her, she was actually interested in my material. I had sent her my query. She came back with a statement of interest requesting a sample of my writing, and then that was enough for her to be interested in the proposal. So after Andrea had had some time to review the proposal, she ended up getting back to me and talking to me about publishing opportunities, trying to see if we were on the same page about what we envisioned for what kind of publishing house we were going to send to. And she ended up requesting a call with me on May 21st, in which she offered me representation. Now, on the phone call itself, a lot of authors talk about how they were really nervous when an agent called them, and for me, I've never really been nervous with an agent call. I guess it's mostly just excited because I'm about to talk to the person who's going to help me take my book to the next level. But, I also had some experience talking with agents. This was my 3rd agent call, so I guess I kind of knew what to expect, but I've just never been the type that gets nervous in those situations. So I was just really excited to get to talk to her, and on the phone, Andrea was really engaging. She was very bubbly. She was very involved in the conversation, seemed really accessible and friendly, and that was really enjoyable to talk to her. And she focused on the business end of our relationship, but she also gave me some really nice compliments about the writing, and that really cemented for me that she was the right person for my project because she really connected with why it was important. I mean, she said things like that my writing was fantastic, that I had a great conversational tone. Hearing these things is really nice. What else did she say? She said, that she was really happy to get a chance to represent something that she was actually excited about. She called me talented. That's always a plus. She said that I would be filling a hole in the market. It was really a lot of fun to talk to her because she kept slipping in these comments on the work, and I was very flattered by that, also by the fact that she said the proposal would need to undergo a little bit of editing, but that it was mostly kind of cosmetic changes, mostly really minor wording changes, line changes, moving things around. And I think that was one of the biggest compliments too, is that Andrea teaches a class on this and she thought I did a good job. That was pretty amazing to me, because I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing, that I wasn't much of an expert, and that the proposal that I ended up coming up with was hopefully passable, but nothing amazing. So it was very confidence building to hear that from somebody that I respect in the field. She also made it really clear during our conversation that she knows the editors at these publishing houses that she was planning to proposition. She knows their names, she knows their preferences, she knows what they're looking for, she has an idea of what they've bought. So I have every bit of confidence that she's going to be able to actually sell my book. And that's, of course, important too, besides your relationship with the agent, because ultimately that is why you're working together, for them to get you a book deal. So the combination of connecting with her, seeing that she connects with the material, and also confidence in her ability to sell it, I thought really just tied the bow on whether I would be signing with her. So I did end up, after the phone call, going back to any of the other agents who were considering it, and I notified them that I would be signing with someone else, and I signed with her the next day. So I'm very happy with the way things are going so far. Andrea is very responsive, she's really personable, she's very accessible in the emails, and I really believe that pretty soon we're going to have a great book deal on our hands, so I hope to be bringing you that good news very soon. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and I really hope I have some time to create some new writing videos for you guys in the future. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments on this content, and I'll see you next time.